Emily never thought her quiet Sunday morning would lead to something that would shift her entire world. She was the kind of person who found comfort in routines. She liked waking up early, opening the curtains to let in the soft golden light, and putting the kettle on while the house was still silent. On that particular day, she had decided to stay home instead of meeting her friends for brunch, wanting to catch up on laundry and give herself a quiet reset before the busy week ahead. The house belonged to her family, a charming two-story suburban home with wide windows and a porch swing her father had built. Emily was 29, working as a graphic designer, and while she loved her job, she often carried stress back home with her. That day, however, she felt unusually light. She wore her favorite oversized sweatshirt and moved through the house barefoot, humming softly. Her best friend, Daniel, had been staying at the house temporarily. He had recently gone through a difficult breakup and needed a place to stay while he figured things out. Emily had known Daniel for years. They had met in college, pulling all-nighters in the library, sharing snacks, and laughing through their struggles. He had always been a comforting presence in her life, someone who could make her laugh even in her worst moments. When he asked if he could stay in the guest room for a while, she had agreed without hesitation. That morning, Emily thought Daniel had already gone for his usual run. He was disciplined, always up early, and always determined to clear his head with a jog before breakfast. She carried a basket of clean towels toward the upstairs bathroom, humming absent-mindedly as she climbed the stairs. She didn't realize the water was running until she was almost at the door. Pausing, she frowned. Daniel must have stayed home after all. She turned to go back downstairs, but before she could, she heard his voice. At first, she thought he was just talking to himself, maybe going over his thoughts out loud as he sometimes did. But then his words became clearer. "I don't know how to say it." Daniel's voice carried faintly through the sound of rushing water. "Every day I'm around her, I feel like I'm holding something back. Emily doesn't even realize it, but she's the reason I get through my days now." Emily froze, her heart stopping for a moment as she realized he was talking about her. She held her breath, afraid to make a sound. "I've loved her for years," Daniel continued, his voice raw and filled with emotion. "But I was always scared she'd never feel the same. She deserves so much, and I never thought I'd be enough." Emily felt a rush of emotions she couldn't even name. Her best friend, the person who had been by her side through so many ups and downs, loved her? She pressed her back against the wall, her heart thudding so loudly she worried he might hear it even over the shower. For a moment, she considered slipping quietly away and pretending she had never heard anything. But her mind kept replaying his words, and the weight of them pressed down on her chest. She had always cared about Daniel, but she had never allowed herself to think about him in that way. Or maybe she had, quietly, deep down, but she had been too afraid to admit it. Emily finally forced herself to move. She stepped back from the bathroom door and hurried downstairs, her cheeks flushed, her mind racing. She placed the basket of towels on the couch and sat down, gripping the fabric tightly in her hands. She thought about the countless nights they had spent talking about life, about their shared laughter, about the way he always seemed to know when she needed comfort. She thought about the times he had been there for her, the way his eyes softened whenever he looked at her. Suddenly, all those small moments connected into something bigger, something undeniable. When Daniel finally came downstairs, freshly showered and dressed in a plain white t-shirt and jeans, Emily tried to act natural. But her heart betrayed her, pounding wildly as he gave her his usual easy smile. "Morning," he said, grabbing a glass of water. "I thought you'd gone out." Emily swallowed hard. "No, just stayed home today." They sat together at the kitchen table, and for the first time in years, Emily didn't know what to say to him. The silence between them felt heavier than ever. Daniel noticed, of course he always did. "You okay?" he asked gently, tilting his head. Emily looked at him, really looked at him. She saw not just her friend, but the man who had just confessed his heart when he thought no one could hear. She wanted to speak, but her voice felt trapped. Finally, she whispered, "Daniel, I heard you." His expression shifted instantly. His glass froze halfway to the counter, and his eyes widened as he realized what she meant. You heard that?" he asked, his voice trembling. Emily nodded. "I didn't mean to. I was bringing towels and I heard you." The room fell into silence again, but this time it was filled with unspoken emotions. Daniel's shoulders slumped, as if the weight of the world had finally landed on him. He set the glass down and ran a hand through his hair. "I wasn't supposed to say it like that," he murmured. "I didn't want to ruin things between us." Emily felt tears prick her eyes. "You didn't ruin anything." Daniel looked at her, his face etched with vulnerability. "Emily, I've loved you for so long. But I didn't want to risk losing you as my best friend. That's why I kept quiet." Her chest tightened, and she finally reached across the table, placing her hand over his. His hand trembled beneath hers, and for the first time, they allowed themselves to sit in that truth together. "I don't know what this means yet," Emily admitted softly. "But hearing you say it, it made me realize I care more than I ever let myself admit." Tears welled in Daniel's eyes, and he gave her a small, hopeful smile. "So, you don't hate me?" Emily let out a shaky laugh. "No, Daniel. I don't hate you." From that moment, their friendship began to transform. It wasn't an overnight change, but something gentle, gradual, and deeply real. They continued living in the same house, but now every shared meal, every late-night conversation, every laugh carried a new weight, a new meaning. Emily realized she had always felt safe with Daniel, but now she also felt cherished. He no longer tried to hide his feelings, and she allowed herself to explore her own. They started taking walks together, talking about the future, and even dreaming out loud about what it might mean to take their friendship further. One evening, weeks later, Emily found herself standing on the porch swing, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. Daniel joined her, carrying 2 mugs of tea. He handed her one, their fingers brushing, and she felt warmth rush through her chest. "Emily," he said softly, his voice carrying the weight of sincerity. "I don't need you to say anything right now. I just want you to know whatever happens, I'll always be here for you." She looked at him, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I know, Daniel. And I think maybe I want to see where this goes. With us." His smile that evening was brighter than the sunset. Their story wasn't about grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It was about quiet confessions, the courage to be vulnerable, and the power of love that grows from friendship. It was about choosing each other every day, in the small and ordinary moments, until one day they realized that those small moments had become everything.